In the world of two-wheeled legends, there is a machine that has quietly stolen the hearts of riders and etched its mark in motorcycle history. Its distinctive design, compact form, and undying spirit have made it an icon. Today, we embark on a journey into the past, exploring the origins, legacy, and the enduring charm of the Honda Dax. There is an imposter among us. Because what if I told you this is not a Honda at all? As a matter of fact, none of the bikes you saw in this video so far have been Hondas. This is the SkyTeam Dax, the Honda Dax's Chinese cousin. The SkyTeam Dax is a Chinese clone that pays homage to the iconic Honda Dax. While it shares the same nostalgic design and spirit, there are some key differences to consider, like price, engine size, performance, and overall build quality. The SkyTeam Dax comes in a 50cc and a 125cc variant, equipped with a single-cylinder 4-stroke engine, kick, and electric start. It provides a modern twist on the classic Dax experience. With a dry weight of around 75 kilograms and a 5.5-liter fuel tank, it offers a comfortable and efficient ride. And if you thought that was exciting, there's even an electric version called the L-Max, released in the early 2010s, although this model never really gained any popularity. Like many Chinese bikes, SkyTeam hails from China. Recognizing the demand for more affordable versions of the original, they ventured into producing these clones, much like what happens in various industries. Now you might be wondering how these clones are allowed to exist, because they are almost exact clones of the original. It turns out that Honda's patent on the Dax and their other mini bikes expired in the late 1990s, opening the door for Chinese manufacturers to legally produce these bikes. They've made slight modifications to avoid 100% replication of the originals. Chinese manufacturers are able to produce these clones at a much lower cost than Honda, which is why they are so affordable. However, it's important to note that the quality of these clones can vary. It's worth noting that the SkyTeam Dax has garnered a cult-like status here in Belgium, which could be a whole video in itself. You often see big groups of them riding past, and thousands of them flocking together in meetups all across the country. If you have ever been to any of those meets, you will quickly realize it isn't just SkyTeam that is cloning these bikes. As a matter of fact, there are a lot of different Chinese manufacturers making similar clones, including Yincheng, Naifan, Zhongcheng, Zenhua, Boxian, and Panda, just to name a few. But the other members of the Honda mini bike family tree have also inspired its share of clones. The Honda Z50 Monkey, which is known as the SkyTeam Mini, the Honda Ape, known as the SkyTeam Cobra, and the Honda Dream, cloned as the SkyTeam Ace. But it's not just Honda, because the Suzuki RV90 also has its clone, known as the SkyTeam T-Rex.
And this is one of those Chinese replicas. It started its life as a 125 SkyTeam, but as you can see, nothing, well, almost nothing is still stock. And that's also one of the reasons these have such a cult following, because there are so many parts readily available if something breaks, not just replacement parts, but also tuning parts. And this one happens to have a quick action throttle, which is pretty crazy. I'm not used to that. You will find these on every street corner, whether it's a 50cc owned by a 16-year-old, a original Honda usually owned by, let's be honest, middle-aged, let's be honest, middle-aged men, because the original ones are very pricey, or a 125 like this owned by a, let's say, 20-year-old that's allowed to go for its A1 license. These are everywhere in Belgium. This one happens to be one of the more popular replicas, being a SkyTeam, which, believe it or not, the 125cc models are also really going up in price. And as I said, these are heavily modified. This started its life as a stock 125cc SkyTeam, which I'm not exactly sure how many horsepower those produced, but they would go about 90 kilometers an hour. The stock engine has been long swapped out for this 140cc YX version. Because engine swaps on these things are so popular, it's such an easy and relatively cheap way to make more power. Not only is engine swapping very popular, but tuning the engine as well. This one has been flowed, cammed, improved carb, and apparently it makes quite some more power than the stock unit. And it's quite crazy that these are, specifically in Belgium, they are so popular, more so than even neighboring countries like France and Germany, for various reasons. A unknowing passing buyer would probably assume that it was an actual Honda, because if you don't know, you just don't know. There's no way of knowing. It's so blatant. So the Honda patents ran out in the early 2000s, and the first SkyTeam appeared in the late 2000s. They were very quick with it. Now I don't know who was first. Was it SkyTeam? Was it Zhongsheng? Was it whoever? I don't know. All I know is that for some reason or another, SkyTeam really gained popularity here. The Honda Dax was already very popular here. It already had a cult following, and it just got supercharged by the SkyTeam bikes, because for the first time they were affordable and a lot of aftermarket parts came with it because they were so popular. But what can one of these tuned 140s do? Let's find out. Those were definitely not my cleanest shifts, but it's such a weird experience. It's not quick, but it's quick for what it is. You're so low to the ground. The asphalt below you seems to be moving way faster compared to a big bike. And I mean, I can see the appeal. I can see why they are so fun, which is also why I bought a project bike, a SkyTeam 125. It's rather weird because in some way it feels very slow and very quick at the same time. And incredibly rev happy. I was expecting to fully hit the rev limiter right there, but this will happily go over 10k, I think. This mirror is junk though. I do not know what's happening behind me. And that is just the story on how China is legally making almost exact copies of Honda motorcycles. And yes, they are not as good as the original. Chinese quality control is lackluster, but they're also just so cheap, and there's so many parts around that it just makes sense to own one. Would you guys be interested in a full story on why this bike is such a cult icon, specifically in Belgium? Because in my opinion, it's quite an interesting story. One thing to note is that the foot pegs are rattling so hard that my feet are going numb.